Well, hey everybody, West McDonald here, and I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of TigerTube. And if you can't see us, if you're listening in, that means you're listening on Tigerpaw Radio, and I thank you very much. Well, I'm super excited today. I have a guest who actually is in Florida right now, post-hurricane last night, but that's certainly not the story that we'll be talking about today. I have Michael Cozzens, who's the Senior VP of Sales over at Visual Edge IT. How are you, Michael?
Excellent, Wes, and it's good to be with you today. Absolutely, the hurricane came through this morning, but you know what? Nothing compares to getting to spend a little bit of time with you, my friend.
Well, we'll make our own hurricane today. I love it.
That's right. That's correct.
And listen, Michael, if you could introduce yourself for our audience, because nobody knows you better than yourself.
You got about an hour. I got a lot of things to talk. No, I'm just kidding. No, obviously my name is Michael Cozzens. I've been in the industry of business technology, I guess, for 31, 32 years. And, I spent 15 years at a company called Kyocera. My last role with that company was VP of Sales in the United States. So my budgets at that point in time were pushing 400 million on an annual basis. We had the best dealer community, I thought, at that point in time in the industry, which most of those dealers are still there. So very fond of my days at Kyocera, and then I moved on from the Kyocera days and ran into a partnership with the former president of Kyocera. His name's Tony Pater. We actually acquired a company in South Florida, and the name of that company was Wood Business Products. And when we acquired the company, they were doing about $6 million in annual revenues, and pretty much predominantly they were a Mita Kyocera, if you remember those days. And they did a little bit of Oki data. Anyway, long story short, I was the president and CEO of that company. We were able, with a wonderful team at WBS in Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade County, 6 million people, we were able to double that company's size, top line revenue. And when I was approached by everybody, and everybody gets approached when they start people want to talk to you. So I had a lot of folks that wanted to talk to us, had no interest in selling, but Visual Edge had a story. I was actually in Japan at Kyocera's corporate office in Kyoto. And this telephone call came in from a gentleman from Visual Edge. And he said, "Do you want to talk?" And I said, "Not really, but my business partner, who's 20 years older than me, wanted to talk." So anyway, long story short, one thing led to another, and I sold the company to Visual Edge in 2015, actually just October of 2015. So 15 years with Kyocera, 9 years running WBS Technologies, and then I've been now with Visual Edge IT for about 7 years. And so, you sell your company and you transition things over. And then from there, I went in to try to help the company with business development and mergers and acquisitions. So that's a little bit on me.
You've done a lot of exciting things, right? Obviously, to get where you are today. And I think people can learn from that. And I'm wondering if you can just share with me, Michael, just a few things that people, can consider when they're looking to grow their own businesses. What kind of things do you think got you to where you are today?
Well, I think it's, and everybody's got their opinions, but facts matter. And, this Visual Edge is comprised of 34 companies over the span of 15 or 16 years. And the vast majority of this all transpired in about, 5 to 7 years. So the end result is, my answer to that question is, you've got 34 companies. There were no distressed assets. Everything that was partnered were companies that were doing what they did, where they did it, better than average and better than others. And so that's one thing that Visual Edge can hang its hat to. It's made acquisitions and partnered with the best. And if we started rattling off names of companies that have partnered with Visual Edge, they are names that are revered. They're owners in companies and management teams, and really all the value team members are really solid. So that's number one. The next thing that I would liken to what Visual Edge does right is it combines the best of intellectual property that you partner with, and you start to interact with that on a daily and weekly basis. All of a sudden, you're getting the best of the best business practices. And then you've got nationally, we have moved and pivoted to where you've got 300 plus salespeople that are actively running down the road, selling, supporting business technology solutions. So that includes IT solutions, that is in production, print, management services. So really everything that can be done with business technology solutions, that's what we're doing. And then maybe one of the last things there's 1,000 things you could reference, is we've refined our stack. You can't be everything, and you can't sell everything, and you can't do everything. So we've just kind of continued to be agile and make the adjustments so that we were giving our valued customers and our employees the best opportunities to sell, support, and market.
We're seeing some very, different things because of the pandemic, right? And certainly things seem to have been upended with inflation and people printing less and, those kind of things, right? What kind of things do you think dealers need to be doing today to ensure that that they remain strong and important to their, their customers, right? Like today.
That's a subjective question. I remember when I was running my company, I would, attending peer groups, and 3D printing folks were making presentations, and everybody was rushing the stage to get 3D printing products. Anyway, the short answer is, I think everybody that's in business technology today needs to embrace IT services. I don't want to, I wouldn't say you should disregard print in any way. You should continue that process, but you should be objective. And I have run across folks that are still trying to fight IT as something that they're not really sure they want to get into. And I think dealers also, Wes, need to drill down on what they're doing well. See a lot of people trying to take on new opportunities, and I think they're losing some of the sights of things that they do really well. And I would caution folks to look back at the model, look at their numbers, look at their margins, and don't lose sight of what brought you to the dance, and keep doing that well as you look at some of these other initiatives. What we talked about earlier, dealers got to be agile. I don't think we're in a climate or an ecosystem today in business technology where you can, run down the road and not be agile. So, if you were doing business one way, you might want to look at, taking on VoIP or cloud. If you weren't doing production print, you might want to look at production print. Now, I'm not saying run out if you've never done production and invest in something that you don't have the strategy for, but the long and short of it is, you need to take a look at adding new opportunities and doing the same things you're doing right now, or we're doing, and continue doing them well, or even do them better. And then the last piece I would say, which I think everybody can benefit from, continue, if you're not doing it, to invest in your sales engine. I think a lot of companies disregard, they may get caught up and just think it's expected that sales happen on a daily and weekly and monthly basis. And there's a lot of, as there's a lot of pounding the pavement and a lot of no's and a lot of questions. And I think if you can just stay focused and keeping your salespeople educated and motivated, I think that's a big initiative that you want to continue to move forward on and help you be successful.
I'm curious. I mean, one of the things you mentioned is we get these different technology services that, people decide on a direction they want to go. They get sales engaged. Do you think it's better to have sales reps that are kind of doing the entire portfolio, or do they kind of, split out and specialize in the areas? Like, what kind of structure, sales wise, are you guys doing over at Visual Edge?
You know what? For me, I like both. I speak, we have different initiatives, but for me in particular, I like folks to be able to do the gamut of what you're asking them to do. But the reality is that some of our valued sales teams, they just do certain things very, very well.
Sure.
And so you don't want to take them off the 8 ball and have them. But to answer your question, our salespeople at Visual Edge are responsible for selling and marketing IT services across the country. So, if there's some that aren't where they need to be, obviously they're focused, and all of us are kind of in that space. We're continuing to get better in that area. But what they obviously, it's like anything else, they'll turn that over to something to a team that is clear and up to speed on driving that sales cycle and that process and keeping them in the loop. And so it's a team approach. The reality is, salespeople, if they're good salespeople, they can learn a different stack and they'll continue being successful with the new stack anyway.
One of the things that When we talk about managed IT, because obviously the world is moving in that direction, you have moved in that direction very successfully, is this idea of adjacencies, right? And there has been some conversation around customer types being different for managed IT versus managed print.
A lot of times it's just a point where we need our salespeople talking about it. The worst thing that can happen to a manager, as you know, you walk in to see an account with one of your team members and the customer didn't even know that you did some of the things that you do. And
oh yeah,
you wonder how the heck that's even possible.
Yeah.
But so that's our expectation. It's easier said than done. We have several of the companies that we've partnered with were IT companies, meaning they were MSPs. They didn't even know what a copier does. Some of the companies that have partnered with Visual Edge already were working in the IT space, believe it or not, years before they merged with Visual Edge. They already have some of that transition underway, and they can use those proof sources as they continue to talk to their customers.
And does that make a more attractive acquisition target as well if they're already invested in those services where they can have some proof on their books that yes, we're already kind of going down this road?
Yeah, well, you run into that. You run into a lot of people that say they're doing that and then they're not. So the answer to the question is yes. But if you identify that you have a managed service portfolio, you got to prove that out. You can't. And so that's the important piece. I obviously to your point, yeah, that's going to be a lot more interesting in terms of an acquisition specifically for us, an investor, and our investment group is going to be people that can show us that they're making that move. And that they have something sizable and palatable that we can actually, that it's proven.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you see websites, to your point, where they're starting to try and have that image of doing things and then they actually don't, right? And, I've been through that exercise many times, just, trying to hunt down leads, looking at organizations that are doing more managed IT, getting in touch with them and finding out saying, yeah, we've gotten as far as the website, but we don't really have much else there yet, right? So, well, that's great. I appreciate that. And just a small note on the Kyocera story. Years ago, when I started Managed Print, I did some work for Pitney Bowes, and we started carrying the Kyocera line. And of course, at that time, people were saying it was a second-rate machine and everything else. And man, I sold a lot of Kyocera. It was beautiful equipment. I mean, it had a look and finish to it that a lot of the legacy stuff just didn't have at that time, right? So
when Kyocera bought Mita in I think it was 1998. Yeah, that was a printer company. They had printer technology, and they put that technology into the Mita R&D. And man, that product was we had products that we would sell, West, like I believe they were Falcon product 1. And anyway, that product I'd have customers call me and say those things are doing like 500,000 every 3 months.
Yeah,
I mean, and they just were workhorses.
Yep, I remember it well. It was getting past that. It was kind of like if you think of Hyundai in the early days, right? That they were kind of crap cars. And then all of a sudden they really started picking up in their production values and the reliability and everything else. And when I was selling Kyocera, that was in the 2000s. That stuff was amazing. So
it's funny, if you run into a producing sales professional and they like a certain product and they've been very successful with it, it always brings something that's near and dear to my heart. Somebody that's really excited about Canon, or they're really excited about Sharp or whatever. It's pretty cool. I like to see
because it's impacted their lives, right? And I can tell you my own sales experience, absolutely. I know that we need to be moving into sort of technology services. You've proven that with the scope and the size of your growth, over the years. What are some of the things that maybe dealers should stop doing, like, that maybe are holding them back?
I would just say that you probably need to adopt a new strategy that says I've got to approach business objectively, and I've got to review strategies that potentially are proven and can work, and I got to implement it. And so I don't think so to me, I would say if you're one of those dealers and you're in a meeting and someone asks you if you're taking anybody here selling IT or anybody here selling production print, and you're one of those people with your hand down, you might want to reflect on maybe you should probably take a look at that. The other piece is something that we talked about earlier. I think dealers should avoid not staying focused. A lot of times we see all of these, people are looking for a magic bullet. And I can tell you something, you being as professional and up to speed as you, we can tell somebody something, but they've got to stay focused on what they know they can implement with their people and with their market.
Yeah.
Push the boundaries, but stay focused. Change is here, and embrace it.
We've mentioned technology, like being able to add IT services, et cetera. Is there anything they should be looking at kind of in their skunk works, if you will, or, kind of out there that you're seeing that might be of interest to explore in the future?
What is overlooked a lot, and it's surprising to me, is businesses that don't invest in educating their people. And I know it's tougher for a lot of us, but investing in your people definitely will help your company grow, because the more educated they are, the more they feel like you're giving back to their growth. They will execute that on the battlefield. A big initiative for me, and a lot of people overlook this in business: join a peer group. Get involved with people that are doing what you're doing. Don't hit buttons just because somebody said do it, but certainly listen to see what people are doing that are going through the same trials and tribulations that you are.
And maybe you've already given this, but we get to this point in the interview where I call it the impossible question, right? And it's, if you had one piece of advice for dealers out there right now, what would that be?
Evaluate your compensation plans. It's not as simple as saying, oh yeah, we're already doing that. No. Really evaluate how do you pay your managers? How do you pay your salespeople? How do you pay, when you hire people, is your compensation plan, is it standing out with competitors? Is your compensation plan keeping employee retention? So that's the one thing I would say. That's my one piece of advice. I think that gets overlooked a ton.
Well, and I'm going to combine two of the things that you said there. And one is the need for, better focus on compensation plans, especially moving into the future. Look how the world's changed, right? But the second piece that you mentioned earlier was the importance of those peer groups, that there are probably members in other companies that have already taken a lot of those steps and are quite willing to help you, right? So I'm the president right now of the Managed Sprint Service Association. Although not strictly a peer group, the amount of things that I learn from the people that I work with when I have a question is unbelievable, right? The cycles that it saves, and, making me sit back and say, oh, I never really thought about it that way, right? So, yeah. Well,
but I think dealers, I really think a business owner, West, has to evaluate the information they're listening to. And it's an old friend of mine used to say this: take the best and leave the rest. You can't go into meetings or read something and just like a robot hit buttons.
Yes.
It may not fit your model. You may have, all I would say is listen to it, definitely, but then try to see how it works for you, and don't be afraid to change, but keep doing what you're doing well. Make sure your compensation plans are matching with people. And you know what? Pay attention to your company culture, and big things are going to happen.
Wow. Well, Michael, listen, in respect for your time, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this interview today. And I really look forward to seeing you again at one of the events. And
listen, it was either time with Wes or another plan and marketing review. And I said, screw the plan and marketing review. Just kidding. I'm glad we could get together as well, my friend.
Yeah, really nice to see you virtually, and can't wait to do it, again in person. And hey, listen, to all of our viewers and listeners out there, we can't thank you enough for tuning in for another great educational session. And until next time, remember, keep learning.